So a lot of people like to use a DAC amp instead of a music player. A DAC amp is basically a digital to analog converter / headphone amplifier, and those are connected to a smartphone that provides the data, which will be decoded and which will then be amplified by the DAC amp so that you can have a good clean signal in your headphones. Today's review will focus on Shanling H5, a portable DAC amp priced at $369 at the moment of filming today's video review. So this one is a pretty old looking unit. It is a tiny unit by my standards, at least, because compared to my S23 Ultra smartphone, it is about 60% as tall, so it is not quite as tall. It is about as wide, so there is not a big difference in width. It is thicker than two S23 Ultras, so it is quite thick, but there are a lot of components inside and it has a good reason to be so chunky. This is a unit that has two wheels at the front. The right wheel is a volume wheel and the left wheel is a control wheel. You can keep the volume wheel pressed to turn it on and you'll see a really tiny display at the front. The display is so small that you can barely see it, and it is bright, so you will be able to see it in full daylight, but you have to hold it quite close to your face to read what is going on. We have a selection of inputs including Bluetooth with LDAC, aptX, SBC and AAC codecs. We have an optical input which can be found at the back in the shape of a 3.5mm jack. We have a coaxial input. We have a slot for a micro SD card and we will explore that in just a second. We also have a Type-C USB input for using this as a USB DAC, which works with both smartphones and Windows PCs, at least tested by me. It should also work with Linux and Macintosh. And at the back we do have a line out, so this can be used as a DAC / amp for your stereo system and headphone system. You can simply have it connected via the USB Type-C input and leave it on your desk and have the speakers connected from the back of the unit, and then plug a headphone in either in the 3.5mm single-ended jack or the 4.4mm balanced jack at the front. The volume goes from 0 to 100. There is quite a bit of a volume control. It is clean. It doesn't have a high noise floor for EMs, although very sensitive EMs will have a bit of hissing in the background. There are a few settings that you can configure in the Shanling H5. You can set the gain, you can set the play mode, you can select a filter, you can select between dual or single DAC modes, which will let you select between having a more power efficient mode, which is the single DAC mode, and having a better sonic mode, or a mode that sounds much better but consumes more power. I always use the dual DAC mode. I mean, you are not paying $369 to use it in single DAC mode, at least in my humble opinion. You can set the brightness of the display. You can play with the left-right balance if you need that. You can set it to automatically turn off after a period, for example for 15 minutes, and that is about it with the settings. So it has two DACs inside. The two DACs being an AK4493 EQ DAC chips. We have OPA 1612 and LTA8092 operational amplifiers. This one is a full MQA decoder. It supports up to DSD 512 and high resolution PCM files. The battery is a 3500 mAh battery and it has QC or Quick Charge 3.0 with 18 watts of fast charging. Now that we have gotten most of the technical stuff out of the way, we can focus on the actual sound of the product and how does it feel to use this thing. It is a very practical device if you are used to DAC amps. If you are not used to them, then having this attached to your phone can be quite cumbersome because it adds quite a bit of weight. It is not as long or as wide exactly as your smartphone, and it is quite a bit thicker. So back in the day, we typically would have used some rubber straps to strap this to a smartphone, and then we would have a proper audiophile setup strapped to a smartphone. Nowadays, having a cable connected to a smartphone all the time and then having an EM or a headphone cable connected to this can be quite uncomfortable. So I have relied on the micro SD slot at the back, and in some ways it is such an incredible experience because this one becomes a full shuffle player, but in other ways you have little to no control over what is happening. Basically, even if you select the shuffle mode, it will create a ghost playlist that it will repeat over and over. So the main problem with using the SD slot is that it doesn't allow you any kind of folder browsing or artist browsing, absolutely nothing. You have to rely on it being a shuffled up, and you can switch the song from the control wheel. You just switch it one by one and you can adjust the volume, and that is about it if you don't want to connect it to a smartphone. This works pretty well in my experience because I can simply have this in a pocket, my smartphone in a different pocket, and just enjoy music. When there is a song that I don't have stored on the micro SD slot, I can engage the Bluetooth on my smartphone and stream that song from either Tidal, YouTube, or from offline files that I forgot to transfer to the micro SD. So it is practical. It is practical actually to have this kind of DAC amp with you. Why in the world would you want to get a DAC amp and not get a proper DAP? Because even Shanling makes DAPs, and quite a few of them. Well, one thing is the price, because this one is priced much more pocket friendly than most DAPs. At $369 you can't get a DAP that sounds as good as it. And also because this one is more convenient if you spend a lot of time at the computer. For example, if you will need this only occasionally for on the go, and most of its usage will be spent at the computer. It has two separate Type-C inputs, one for charging and one for data, which means that you can have a separate clean power source like a battery powering it, so that you have an even cleaner sound. And you also have the RCA outputs at the back, so you can connect it to a larger stereo system. This is typically useful especially for active speakers, because they usually have RCA inputs, and this one will come in quite handy because the sound will be much better than the sound card of your computer. It will sound much cleaner, much more detailed, the bass will be much deeper, and the whole sound will have a whole new level of detail. And I've tested it against the sound card that can be found inside of my computer. I'm using a gigabyte motherboard, and the Shanling H5 sounds. It's like two different worlds. It's like my computer is not even trying to sound good. It's extremely poor in quality, while H5 is superb in quality. It has such a refined, clean and detailed sound, and I really enjoy its sound. So it can be quite useful for improving the sound of either active speakers, passive speakers with an amplifier, or of your headphones. And that is the best part about it. It has such a high driving power that it had absolutely no trouble driving the HiFiMan HA1000 SA or special edition. It's so powerful. Even though on paper it is not quite that strong, it can hold most of its power even at maximum volume. It will have no signal degradation, no distortion. It will be controlled, deep, powerful, punchy and vivid. And the whole sound is it's so pleasing. So, while usually you would want to look for a source that has as little coloration as possible, Shanling decided to go the other way around, and their sources are quite specific in the tuning. So H5 has one of the most detailed and most vivid presentations, but it is one of the fullest, warmest, deepest sounding sounds out there. So it's like having a whole extra bass button when you use a Shanling product. It adds so much bass and so much quantity of the low end, so much impact, and so much punch to the sound that it's incredible. It can turn a headphone like HA1000 SA, which can be quite neutral in the tuning, into a true bass cannon. It can give them such a satisfying low end, such a full bass, and it also tones down the treble a bit, but it doesn't roll off the treble. It allows the treble to breathe. It gives the treble a good amount of energy, a good amount of sparkle, and it makes everything incredibly detailed. So the sound is not just bassy, it is not all bass and nothing else. It is bassy, detailed, clean, sharp. It is incredible. It is just incredible. Shanling has managed to create a small unit that sounds big. It is such a tiny unit, yet it sounds so wide. It expands in width, it expands in depth, everything is so well separated. So the whole sound of the DAC amp is quite good. And I'm talking about the balanced headphone output, because the single headphone output is just warm, smooth, and not quite as good. So if you are looking for the best way to listen to the Shanling H5, the 4.4mm balanced output is a must. I really recommend you to use it. Now, the RCA output at the back is also surprising. It has zero noise that I can hear, but at the same time, it is also incredibly full, deep, powerful, and punchy. It is a really nice experience to have. So if I had to make a recommendation what to get the H5 for, then I would be saying this. If you are the kind of guy that sits a lot at your computer and you want something that is excellent for a computer setup, then the H5 is going to be just outstanding. If you are the kind of user that goes out sometimes, it is going to be excellent. If you are the kind of person that goes out a lot, then maybe there are some DAC options that you can look into. Even though you'll be spending more, it will be a more comfortable experience. Using a DAC amp is a very specific experience, and I don't want to recommend it to absolutely everyone. I personally like using a DAC amp, but I know it is not made for everyone. So get this if you want a good RCA output. If you want a really powerful headphone output, it can drive the HA1000 SA to almost 115 decibels, so it will have more than enough power for all headphones out there. It has a very good, very quiet output for IEMs, so you won't notice a large amount of hissing. It can be used as a USB DAC for your computer, Windows, Mac, Linux, and it works with Android too. So it basically covers everything. It is the kind of unit that even has a micro SD slot so that you can plug in your card, use it via shuffle, and have a setup that won't even require your smartphone. There is quite a bit of competition in that price range, and you can grab yourself many DACs, many amps, many DAC amps, but this one is the perfect crossover between portable, transportable, and useful in every scenario possible. When you create something that does everything, it does everything a little, and this is what I think it does best. It sticks to being the kind of unit that you would take with yourself everywhere. You can grab this and go to work, you can grab this and go home and enjoy some gaming, some music, and some entertainment in general. You can have this one portably if you want to take a walk, or you can just have it and enjoy music. Doesn't impose a usage scenario on you. Usually I would avoid using DAPs as DAC amps for long periods of time because the battery may run out, while with Shanling H5 the battery is designed to stay protected even if you are using it for long periods of time. You can also just unplug the charging Type-C cable because it doesn't charge from the data cable. So I think that it will be perfect for quite a few folks out there, and it will make everyone who has this kind of usage scenario happy. It has made me happy because I've used it personally with HA1000 SA while taking a stroll through Bucharest, and I've enjoyed the experience, but I think it will be perfect for those who are used to using a smartphone with it as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you will give this video a like if the content is good. I would be really happy if you could subscribe to Audiophile Heaven so that I know that you'll be watching more videos. Also, please watch more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we'll see each other really soon. Bye!